All right, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about Chapter 10, Building an Organization Capable of Good Strategy Execution. So we've talked about ways to create strategy. We've talked about looking at objectives and missions and formulation and external and internal and all that stuff. But there's some actual physical things that you need to make sure your organization is prepared for, and some physical things that you can give your organization to help them create this strategy in a good way. And not only create it, but to execute it. And see, that's the one part that we miss all the time. We're real good at strategy formulation. We're good at having meetings and coming up with all these ideas and agendas. And then we come up with this gorgeous plan that's 3 inches thick and it's bound and it's just pretty and everything. And we're not so good at taking that thing that we've spent so much time and so much effort preparing and saying, here's your map. Here's what I want you to do. And now let's get busy doing this. We're not real good at execution. We're great at planning. We're not real good at execution. So we're going to talk today about things you can do that will help that execution, help that plan, come to fruition. There are 10 of these. I apologize for that, but there are 10 of them. And you're brilliant people, so just know it's not hard learning 10 things. But number 2, don't ever sell your book. Don't ever sell these notes. You should never sell your book. You shouldn't. You'll never get money back for it that you've got in it. And it is a great library. When you graduate from college, you ought to have a library and business library. You ought to have a strategy book and a finance book and a marketing book. You've got them. You've got them. Don't sell your books back. Hang on to those books. Back to this. How do I create a strategy how do I create an organization that accommodates strategy execution? All right, here we go. Principal components of strategy execution process. Right here, just like magic. Number 1, staff the organization with managers and employees capable of executing the strategy well. Dadgummit. It all starts with employees and their knowledge, skills, and abilities. It all starts with that. That's like an NFL team saying, our strategy is going to be a great passing attack. And your quarterback was picked in a millionth round and played for a level 3 college. No, great guy, great kid, really good athlete at the level 3, but certainly doesn't have the knowledge, skills, or abilities to lead my professional team in a passing attack. So make sure that you look at your plan. You know what your plan is. You know what your strategy and your objectives are. Make sure, and so you want to be saying, what am I going to need in a human element to make that happen? And make sure those are the people you hire. This is real hard because we're always in a bind. We're always late. We need to hire somebody. Well, hiring somebody is tough. It's almost like getting married to somebody. In fact, you can get out of a marriage easier than you can get out of getting rid of a bad employee. So understand that. Forget about looking at badness. Hire the people that are the best that are going to help you meet your objectives. Number 2, build the organizational capabilities required for successful strategic execution. Make sure not only do we have the people, that we have the capabilities required. We have the technology. We have the human input. We have all those things that I need to get to the next level. Make sure they're there. Because you can't ask your organization to do something if you haven't prepared it to do it. Number 3, create a strategy supportive organization structure. Organizational structure is this huge issue, very theoretical, a lot of fun to talk about. But structure deals with how have you organized? Are we using a divisional level or a product level, or are we centralized decision making? Are we decentralized decision making? All that's your decision. That's not gospel. That didn't come down with Moses from the mountain. That's your decision. So make sure that you've got a communication flow that fits your strategy. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be Centralize. If your strategy is such that it's important to have control, then yes, I would have a centralized communication design. There's not a right or wrong. It's the one that supports your strategy. And that's what number 3 says. Just make sure you've got what supports your strategy. Number 4, allocate sufficient budgetary and other resources the strategy execution needs. Dadgummit, don't ask people, don't give non-funded mandates. That's the government. The government will come out and say, states, you've got to do this, and then they won't give them any money, and it's going to cost billions of dollars, and the government's saying you have to do it, we're not going to support it at all. You can't be like that. If you tell them you want to do something, you've got to make sure you've got those adequate resources. And a lot of you have probably worked for a company that said, hey, we need you to do this, and you're going, oh, how do we don't care, I just gave you an order. You're supposed to get out there and do that. That is crazy. You have got to give them the tools they need to get the job done, and if you don't, you're crazy, and you shouldn't be a manager. There, I said it. Number 5, institute policies and procedures that facilitate strategic execution. Dadgummit. Number 5. Basically, I used words like policies and procedures. Dadgummit. Make it easy. Make it easy. If they need to make a requisition of something, it ought to be one email they send. It shouldn't be 6 different things that you have to do to make that happen. Around here, this university, if you're a chairman of a committee, you have to have committee meetings, which means you need to find some space, a room that'll accommodate your 10 members or whatever. Reserving a room at this university is like you would think it's rocket science. Literally, it's like 5 or 6 emails, forms, real forms, no email. You email and say, I need a form. Well, it's going to take them a week to get it to you. Then you fill out the form and you have to send it not by email, by snail mail, campus. The point is, it's 5 or 6. It ought to be as easy, pick up the phone and say, I need a room that'll hold this many people, and literally in 2 hours you ought to get a response going, here's your room, it's yours. It is absolutely insane. It reminds me of 1922. Don't make it hard for your employees. If you make it hard, then they're going to say, well, I just didn't want to do it. Don't make it harder to get the room or to get the whatever you need than it is to have the meeting or have the framework that you're trying to give to your employees. Getting the room should be easy. So make sure policy and procedures are easy. If I need to get a car today, make it easy. Say, I need a car so I can go do my work. My work shouldn't be getting the car. It ought to be, boom, you got the car. Do that. That's your fault. That's your responsibility. Make that happen. Number 6, adopt best practices and business processes that drive continuous improvement in strategy execution activities. Now, here's the deal. You're going to hear the term best practices. I used to hear it and think, well, that truly is something that Moses brought down from the mountain. Here are your best practices. That's gospel. It came from above. Best practices are just using procedures and practices that you have seen and observed in the past that were successful. So if somebody says, if you say we're using best practices, they say, what does that mean? Well, we're using this process. And number 1, we've either used it in the past and it was very successful and I can show you quantitatively how it was, or the industry has used this formulation, this practice, and I can show you how the industry has increased. So this has been used, it's worked, and I can prove to you that it worked, and therefore we're using that. And that's what best practices means. There's no registered trademark of best practices. There's no list of these are the ones that absolutely are the ones you should use. That's not what best practices means. When you hear people saying best practices, that just means they've looked historically and found things that they believe and can honestly prove to you have worked. That's what best practices means. Number 7, install information and operating systems that enable company personnel to carry out their strategic roles proficiently. Let me read that first part to you again. Install information and operations systems. All right, we make you all take MIS classes, Management Information Systems. And we give you, well, here's the flow chart that you designed, and here's kind of the hardware and software you need to use. So we get real technical with it. Who cares about that stuff? What you want as a manager is for somebody to go, I need some information. And you need to make it so that that MIS system allows at their fingertips, boom, there it is. I don't have to go get a master's degree in Access. I don't have to do all these things and be a computer programmer to know that. Yeah, I need all those people back behind the scenes to do that. But what I need in my car is a good carburetor, fuel injector now. That tells you how old I am. I don't need to know how it works. I just need to know that it's there for me. Same thing with an MIS system. I don't need to know how it works. I just need to know how to access that bad boy at a moment's notice. So you get the easiest one you can, because you can get some programs that are so difficult. Again, you have to have a master's degree in computer science. That's not what I need. I need something simple, quick, boom, efficient. There you go. And those things are out there. Don't let anybody tell you they're not. They are out there. So provide this for your workers. They don't have to go through 6 steps. I can remember where if you wanted some information, you had to go to somebody, and they went to somebody to give you that. That is insane. That is absolutely insane. Make it so that if your employees need it, they have access. Give them that minimal training that lets them get in there, and boom, there they are. Yeah, now you're not going to let them make entry and all that. No, they just need it. Read-only, absolutely. I need read-only access today. So make sure your MIS system supports that. Number 8, tie rewards and incentives directly to achievement of strategic targets. Dadgummit, make sure that if people do what you ask them to do, that they receive reward for that. Now, that's a whole other issue. We'll take an organizational behavior class and we'll talk about how to create all that reinforcement, because motivation this way is a very, very wonderful thing, but it's a very tricky thing, and you have to think about it. And I know that every time somebody does something good, you can't say, here's $100. You don't have a budget for that. You don't have anything. But it said reward and incentives. Don't you ever expect somebody to do something that you don't reward them. And don't you ever say, well, we pay you, don't we? We pay you every week. That should be your reward. If you believe that, you will be the worst manager on the planet. You'll be the absolute worst manager on the planet. It doesn't work like that. Intellectually, psychologically, workers do not respond to that. So absolutely, you need to find out some way to reward their behavior, because as they move toward and they follow this strategic direction, because if you don't, they're going to say, well, I'm doing what you say I'm doing, and it's just like nothing. So again, you can take a whole course on motivation, and we're not going to get into that right now, but you need to do that. So if you're curious about that, if you've got questions about that, go look that up. Go to that interweb thing and look up motivation and look up reinforcement and look up those things, and it'll tell you psychologically here's what's going on. But I can tell you, the proof's in the pudding, that it works. Number 9, instill corporate culture that promotes good strategic execution. We're going to talk about corporate culture in a minute, but you need to understand that to create a culture is a difficult thing to do, but it has great benefits. If you're in an organization that already has a good culture, a strong culture, great. You just need to do everything you can to maintain and instill that. If you're in a culture that doesn't have that, you need to think about starting one. And we're going to talk about that ad nauseum in a chapter or two, but that's important. And number 10, exercise the internal leadership needed to propel strategy implementation forward. Once again, this strategy and the implementation of it is all on your shoulders. You cannot, as a manager, go, well, they just didn't listen to me. They just didn't want to do it. There's no option here. You have to do it. You have to get it done. There's no excuse. You try things, they don't work. You try something else. You can't say, hey, I did everything I could. No. It's like Yoda said, there's not a try, or there is no try, there's only do. You got to do it. You can't try it and it didn't work and say, well, too bad. If that's your attitude, don't be in management. Don't be in leadership. Okay, you have no option. You have to do it. You have to succeed. That's got to be your philosophy. All right, so what do y'all think? We talked about those 10 big things to do to make sure that we kind of, execute this strategy. What do you guys think? Man, you guys are insane. That's all I know. You're scaring me. You really are. I know different generations and all that, but I don't understand that at all. You guys are just beyond. I don't know. I don't know if you need help. I don't know if I need to, jump on the bandwagon. I'm afraid right now. I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of scared. All right, we talked about 10 things. Now we need to go back and I basically just gave you a list. So here's the deal. Let's go over those individually now. So to finish this chapter up, we're only going to go over 3 of them. I know you guys are getting tired. So is it 3? Yep, 3 of them. So here we go. All right, the first thing, I'm not going to go back to the list, but I'm going to put the first one back up here. Staff the organization with managers and employees capable of executing strategy well. Hire the right people and train your people right. Hire the right people and train your people right. Oh my goodness. This is probably the biggest problem organizations have, because here's what happens. Somebody quits. All of a sudden there's a hole. Whether it's on the assembly line or in the management framework, somebody quits. Oh my God, they left yesterday. Today, nobody's doing their job. I'm freaking out. Well, as a manager, if you can't find somebody their job, that means kind of responsibility is your job, and you're as lazy as I am, and I certainly don't want to do that, or I don't have the expertise to do it. I need to find somebody quick. So you look at HR and you put it on their shoulders, and they put the ad in the paper or they run a whatever, and a lot of times we hire somebody based on what's called the warm body theory. As long as I get a warm body in that job, I'm good. Well, that can lead to ruin more often than not. You need to hire the right person. The person who has the KISA, KSA, the knowledge, skills, and abilities to do the job. Hire the right person. Interview them ad nauseum. Interview them 12 times if you need to. Oh, we can only have one. No, you can't. You can interview them as many times as you want to. Have as many different people talk to them as you want to. If you do that, we need to train your staff on how to interview and what's good and what's bad. And that's all. Take my HR class. That's a whole other issue. But you need to gain as much information as you can about them. And if you insist on this degree, they need to have that degree. If you insist on this ability, they need to have that ability. If you want them to show you that they have an ability, whether it's Excel or anything, give them a test. Sit them in front of you and let them go. Absolutely. There's no way you can tell if they can do that or not. Number 2, check those references like they are, check them like crazy, like you're getting ready to marry this person. Call every one of them. Well, I called and the guy wasn't there and he was supposed to call me back, but we'll just go ahead. No, you won't go ahead. No, you will not go ahead. I can tell you horror stories about not checking references. So make sure you've done everything you can. You hire the right people because they've got the right skills, and you have checked, you have looked at their past, because when it comes to hiring people, when it comes to people in general, the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. So if you do a reference and they say, yeah, he was always here, worked every day, been here for 5 years, great worker, all that, you can count on that. You need to find that out, though. You need to find that out. So hire the right people. Last thing about this, never hire anybody that you have doubts about. If you go, well, he'll probably work out. If you use the words like probably and well and kinda, do start over. Do not hire that person. In fact, the minute you start getting those doubts, stop. Don't invite him back for another interview. Send him a letter. Say thank you for your interest in this company. However, we've decided on somebody else. Do not hire somebody, anybody that you have doubts about. And number two, once you hire those people, you develop them constantly and continually. Oh, we had a training session 5 years ago. No. You know how dynamic technology is and the things you're requiring your people to do. Once you hire them, you're not done. You hire the right person, they had good skills, keys, knowledgeability, their references checked out, you liked them. You are just starting that process. You keep them trained, you keep them efficient. So you've got to do that. Number two, build the organizational capabilities required for successful strategy. You've got to do that. You've got to create those capabilities within your organization strategically so that when it comes time for them to interact with the current strategy, they have the tools to do that. So there's 3 ways to create these internal capabilities. Number 1, develop capabilities internally. That's training. That's development. I need you to go to this management training session. I need you to go to this Excel training session. We've got some new software. You're going to need to go in and train with these people. They're going to teach you how to do this software. You're going to be the point person on this software. You have to train them. Second thing is, you can acquire capabilities through mergers and acquisitions. We need somebody who understands this new market. We need somebody who's got this technical ability. Well, one way you can gain that is to go buy a company that's got that. You can go buy that asset. And a lot of times mergers and acquisitions are, we could develop it on our own, it would cost a fortune, it would be slow, etc. It's freestanding right over here. I think we could buy them at a cost that would be effective and efficient. We're going to go buy that capability. And the third thing is to access capabilities through collaborative partnerships. Yeah, we're not going to merge and we're not going to acquire. We're going to be 2 separate entities. However, we're going to have a joint kind of situation where we share. I've got something you need, you've got something I need. Why don't we get together and share that? And there are many instances of organizations that have done that. They've shared their capabilities. They share employees. Okay, and it's all legalistic and it's all, under contracts. But you've got to be, I don't want to let you know everything I've got. However, I need you, so I'm going to trust you. Together, we can do more than we did apart. It's that synergy kind of issue. And then number 3, organize the work effort with a supportive organizational structure. Basically, get out of their way. Don't have meetings every Tuesday at 11 o'clock. That's part of your structure. Well, every Tuesday we have this meeting. Dadgummit. Unless you're looking for instant feedback, send them an email. Meetings are the biggest waste of time on the planet. If you have a meeting just to give out information, you should not have it. Meetings should be interactive. Meetings should be the only way I could truly make this effective is if you were sitting right in front of me. That's what a meeting is all about. A meeting is not to disperse information. That is ridiculous. So, organize your workplace structure so that it's easy. Make it easy for me to get a room at USC to have my committee meeting. Make it simple. Make it so easy it's not funny. There's no reason it needs to ever be hard. Nothing ever needs to be hard. If something's hard in it and you can change it, then you are insane if you don't. Hard is not good. Okay, I was raised that. If it's not hard, it's not worth doing. That is the dumbest statement on the planet. That is the absolute dumbest statement on the planet. So, absolutely, hard is not good. Hard is something we try to avoid at all costs. So just make it efficient, make it effective, make it profitable, make it help you meet your objectives. Things like value chain issues. And look at your value chain. Are there any places in that value chain where you're literally, you manager, have put things in there that make it just, oh my God, this is just a hurdle that I don't even need to deal with. Why did you make me do this? So take all that out of there. Just absolutely get rid of that. I don't care if you've done it for 100 years. In fact, if you've done it for 100 years, I guarantee it's wrong. Things like organize your company. We're back in organizational theory now, in a functional way, in a product way, in a divisional way. There's no right or wrong here. It's the way that makes it easiest for you and your employees to meet your objectives. That's what you do. That should be the basis of your decision. All right. We basically looked at a huge list of things that you need to do, 10 things that were going to help you actually implement this strategy, get it into action, because that's the key. Plan was great, and I know that's part of this course is planning. Who cares about the plan if you don't ever put it into action? So one without the other is insane. So we're talking about how do you get this into action. So we talked about 10 major things, and we broke it down. We looked over those first 3. We went over those in detail. Y'all showed me some dance moves I have never seen before. Appreciate that. So here in this chapter, peace, y'all. We're getting close to the end now. Make sure you're reading the book. Make sure you're taking those tests. Everything's cool. See ya.